On Sunday, more than 80,000 people packed St. Peter's Square in the Vatican as Pope Leo announced two new saints. One of those new saints is Carlo Acutis, the first ever millennial saint. Saint Carlo was born in 1991. He was a devout Catholic who taught catechism and went to Mass every day. He also loved playing video games, hiking, soccer, and playing with his friends. Carlo was also known for his computer science skills, which he used to create a website documenting Eucharistic miracles. But in October 2006, when Carlo was just 15 years old, he fell ill. At first, his parents thought it was the flu. Carlo was hospitalized and then quickly diagnosed with acute leukemia. He died days later. Now, Carlo's body is on display at a church in Assisi, Italy, where thousands have gone to pray with him and visit him. He's pictured wearing jeans, a sweatshirt, and sneakers. But why do saints capture our attention so effectively, even for non-Catholics? That's a question one University of Iowa professor has spent years researching. So we have Kristy Nabhan-Warren with the university's Religious Studies Department joining us now. Kristy, thank you so much for being here with us. Why are people so drawn to saints?
Shelby, thanks so much for having me. It's so fascinating because I think it's a way, saints were ordinary people, but they were also extraordinary, right? And so I think that humans, whether they're Catholic or non-Catholic, right, can relate to them because they're human, but even more so because they're special humans. And Carlo is a really interesting guy because, as you said, he had these special computer skills. He's young, the first millennium saint. And so I think it's a way for the church to stay modern with the times, but also honoring those, centuries old devotion to saints. And as you mentioned, Assisi will become probably one of the premier pilgrimage sites emerge when saints' bodies aren't on display, or maybe the crucifixes that they had or little pieces of their clothing. So pilgrimages, I'm anticipating that Assisi will become a huge pilgrimage site in the years to come.
Oh my gosh, yeah, ABC News was reporting earlier, they're expecting about 2 million people every year to go visit that site in Assisi. But I gotta ask you, how significant is his elevation that happened this weekend?
Yeah, it happened very quickly. And so the process of sainthood is really, I love the number three. It's sort of a three-step process. There's a nomination, and he was nominated shortly after he died. There has to be two miracles for a human to become elevated to saint. So they're beatified after the first miracle. And the first miracle with Carlo, Saint Carlo, was a 4-year-old boy whose mom declared that he was cured of pancreatitis. So it had to do with health issues. And the second miracle happened about a year ago with a young woman who had a traumatic brain injury. And so I find it really interesting that this particular saint, Saint Carlo, himself died of illness, and he's being, proclaimed as a young man and saint who cured other young people. So every saint has sort of their special devotion, right? So a lot of pregnant women, for example, pray to certain saints for themselves to have, a safe pregnancy, like Saint Gianna. I'm anticipating that there will be a lot of special devotions to this saint, maybe to crack computer codes, but also to for healing. So I think we'll see a lot of very particular kinds of asks and requests to come St. Carlo's way.
Well, here we have a saint that is so integrated into our modern world, technology, even influencing. Is this something you would have expected to see, even 15 years ago?
That's a great question, Shelby. The fascinating thing to me as a scholar of Catholicism is that, historians talk about continuity and change. So there's always continuity among devotionalism to the saints, right? Again, saints were ordinary people who did extraordinary things, certain special things. But I think you're right. So this is a way, I think, elevating Carlo to sainthood for the church to get with the modern times. Most young people today are online. We know the dangers of being online for our youth. We know that that's a really dark and scary place. So I think this could be a way for an institutional church that's been around for millennia, right, to combat really those dangerous parts of the internet and social media, and perhaps give it a positive spin. And so I think it's really brilliant on the part of the church, to elevate this young man to sainthood. He had, miracles proclaimed to him. So it'll be really interesting to see. There's a school in Peoria, Illinois. That Saint Carlo, church. It's a diocesan school that is K through 8, and so I'll be really interested in seeing if there are going to be more Catholic parochial schools that have him in their title. So.
We've only got a few seconds left, so really quickly, having a saint tied to modern tech like this, I mean, what does this mean for our desire to seek out meaning and mystery?
Yeah, that's a great question. Again, we're finding more, younger, older millennials and also Gen Z are really starting to turn to the internet, seeking faith, seeking spirituality, and really across the board generationally. So I think this is just really a ripe opportunity for an institutional church to say, okay, we're going to meet you where you are. Here's a young man who was really active even before the internet was the internet with capital I, And so it's another way to evangelize and to reach the faithful in the internet, but also in real time. Humans crave that connection as they do, going to the pilgrimage site. So I think it's a brilliant way to bring in the new faithful, to reach the hearts and minds of people across the world.
Kristy, I cannot thank you enough for your time today. Thank you so much for being here and enlightening all of us on your research.
It was a delight. Thank you so much.
If you guys at home want to learn more about Carlo, we have continuing coverage up at WQAD.com underneath the As Seen on TV tab.